Okay, this one's called F1 crashes, but they get increasingly scarier. So the video's literally telling us up front it's going to get worse the longer we watch. That's either a great structure or a terrible idea for my heart rate. Let's find out.
All of these F1 crashes are terrifying, but as we go through the video, they'll gradually get scarier. Fires, cars exploding. But to start, we have to go to Australia, 2016. The first race of the season, and for Fernando Alonso, it was a fresh start after a frustrating 2015 with McLaren. Esteban Gutierrez, meanwhile, was making his return to the grid with Haas and needed to make an impact. But on lap 17, Alonso made the move.
Himself up, walking very gingerly indeed. We've got a safety car, and that's a massive impact.
Gutierrez braked slightly earlier than expected, sending Alonso's car into the air and into the barriers at over 300 kilometers an hour. The red flag was immediately deployed. Despite walking away, Alonso was ruled out of the following race due to rib fractures, but did let us know what it was like.
Happy to be here, it was quite a scary crash. The last point the car stopped and I had a little space to go out, and I said I will go out quickly because my mother will watch at home and I want to go out quickly.
I was relieved to see that Fernando was okay. We are both fine, but fortunately nothing happened.
The crash was a chilling reminder of F1's dangers, yet also a testament to the incredible safety advancements in modern racing.
So we open with Alonso and Gutierrez in Australia again. This one keeps coming up, doesn't it? And honestly, it makes sense why over 300 kilometers an hour into the barriers is no joke. What actually gets me every time, though, is him saying his first thought was getting up quickly because his mom would be watching at home. That's such a human thing to think about in a moment like that.
A driver used to flipping cars, albeit from the other way, is Lando Norris. 2021 Belgian Grand Prix. Relentless rain characteristically hammering the Spa circuit, so much so that multiple drivers voiced concerns over visibility and grip.
I love racing and then from the rain, and today was just hardcore conditions.
The difficulties to start the race with the spray is just not possible.
This has been Lando's weekend though, topping the timesheets in Q1 and Q2. Heading into Q3, he was the pole position favourite, but as he approached Eau Rouge and Radillon, the commentators noticed something.
Did that go round? Did the McLaren go round?
Yes, it did! Yes, it did! That's Lando Norris, as everybody in that McLaren garage looks at the screens.
Nos está costando... ¡Uy, va! ¡Qué leche! Nos está costando mucho.
The car snapped violently to the left in the rain and slammed into the barriers at around 280 kilometers an hour. The impact was brutal. Sebastian Vettel, who was one of the voices voicing their concerns, was the first at the scene.
And there is Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin, just making sure that he's okay. First driver on the scene. He too was worried about the conditions.
What the did I say? What did I say? Red flag? Yeah. Unnecessary. Is he okay?
Vettel was screaming at the FIA earlier that day to pause this race, as the track was basically a lake at this point. Seb was pissed. The track stopped as Lando hadn't said anything. Finally,
Lando is moving.
Lando, are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
despite the wreck, Norris was fit enough to race the next day, even if race day itself was a complete disaster.
It is time to go back to the pit lane again because conditions haven't improved. Ladies and gentlemen, the race will not resume.
But a young George Russell, who was sat in P2 at the time of the cancellation, secured his first ever podium finish in F1.
The fizzy stuff gets sprayed. The racing didn't really happen.
The Norris one at Spa is brutal too, and you can hear it in the commentary. Drivers were literally warning about the conditions before he even crashed, so it's not like this came out of nowhere. 280 kilometers an hour in the wet, snapping left like that, there's nothing you can do in that moment. And Vettel being first on the scene checking on him, that's actually kind of sweet, honestly. drivers looking out for each other like that.
Mind you, you don't need rain to have such a lengthy crash as at the 1990 Italian Grand Prix. Derek Warwick found that out the hard way. Monza, the home of speed. During the warm-up session on race day, Warwick's Lotus stalled in the pit exit, needing help from the marshals to get it back out to the grid. This would be the least of his problems this day, as heading down to Monza's high-speed first chicane.
An almost unbelievable end. Oh my God. That is a Lola, that's all I can tell. No. It's Derek Warwick.
At those speeds, there was no time to react. His Lotus speared into the barriers at full force, smashing through them before bouncing back onto the track in pieces.
He must have crashed at around 150 miles per hour.
Debris scattered everywhere, yet this wasn't the craziest part of this crash.
And as you can see, my goodness, he's okay.
Like absolutely nothing happened. For the majority, after something this crazy, you'd take the day off to regather yourself. But not Warwick. This moment would go down in F1 folklore, as just minutes after one of the most horrifying crashes in Formula 1 to date, he was back in the Lotus garage. He wasn't done.
His first thought being to get into the spare car.
And incredibly, Warwick lined up for the restarted race as if nothing happened.
Are you ready to go racing again?
No problem.
Derek Warwick, both physically and mentally prepared to do this again.
Despite his heroic comeback, his race didn't last much longer. The second start saw him retire on lap 26 due to a gearbox failure, but his resilience had already made the headline.
Derek Warwick won from 1990 is wild for a completely different reason. The crash itself, 150 miles an hour into the barriers, debris everywhere, that's already terrifying on its own. But then he just gets up, walks it off, and gets straight back into the spare car, ready to race again like nothing happened. That's either the most impressive or the most unhinged thing I've seen in this video so far. Maybe both.
Just like Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton did in the 2021 British Grand Prix for all the wrong reasons. Silverstone. Hamilton was desperate to win his home race.
To raise the Union Jack for the fans, it's like the most proud moment an athlete can have.
Especially after losing ground to Verstappen in the title fight. With Verstappen taking pole position, it's lights out.
And away we go. Once again, Max Verstappen gets a decent start. Not as good as yesterday. Hamilton is right with him. Leclerc is already ahead of Bottas. Verstappen's ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Going through the second turn. It's the Red Bull, but Hamilton's coming back.
Only 40 seconds into the race, with neither Hamilton or Verstappen giving up going into Copse corner.
Hamilton's going to try again, this time on the inside. A continent touch. Verstappen is out of the race, and that's a big crash into Copse. Hamilton continues on.
Hamilton got a strong slipstream and dives down the inside. Verstappen, refusing to yield, turned in, throwing the Red Bull flying into the barriers, hitting a terrifying 51G impact. Verstappen was taken to hospital for precautionary checks, but miraculously left unharmed. Meanwhile, that firestorm between Red Bull and Mercedes, now at an all-time high, was about to get cranked up even further.
Yeah, Michael, look, that's an enormous accident, and it was 100% Max's corner. Full blame lays on Hamilton.
Understood, Christian, that's why it's under investigation.
Regardless of the pleas from Red Bull, Hamilton was only slapped with a 10-second time penalty he had to serve in the pit lane. Coming out in fourth, Lewis had a mountain to climb.
Here goes Lewis Hamilton. This is where he tangled with Max Verstappen.
Actually, we invert the cars into turn 15 this lap.
Lewis Hamilton up into second place in this race. Remember what happened at Copse on lap 1? Here goes Hamilton on lap 50. Oh! And he tries to get past Leclerc and goes off the track. Has Hamilton gone through? Yes, he has. He wins the British Grand Prix.
Red Bull were furious, but there was nothing they could do. Lewis came out on top in front of his home crowd. Against all the odds, the Brit pulled through in a race that'll be talked about for the ages.
We've actually covered this Silverstone crash before. Verstappen and Hamilton, 51 Gs into the wall, and it's just as intense watching it again in a different video. What stands out to me rewatching it is honestly the politics around it. Red Bull straight up on the radio saying full blame on Hamilton in real time. That rivalry was genuinely at its peak right here.
But just like Felipe Massa in 2009, there was nothing he could do either for probably the freakiest accident in F1 history. Felipe Massa, still recovering from the disappointment of narrowly losing the 2008 title, he needed a strong result with Ferrari. However, something bizarre had already happened before his run in Q2.
Oh, something is broken on my car.
Hey, Sam. As Barrichello went into turn 3, debris from his rear suspension flew off and landed right on the racing line,
bouncing along the asphalt before settling right in the middle of the track. No one saw it, no one knew. As Massa approached turn 4 at nearly 260 km an hour, the loose suspension spring bounced directly into his helmet. The impact was immediate and brutal. Massa's head jolted backwards, and if you look to the left, you can see his foot remained planted on both the throttle and the brake, shooting his Ferrari straight off the track. The crash itself wasn't particularly dramatic, but hitting that wall was a limp body. Silence followed. Massa wasn't moving.
Ferrari driver Felipe Massa will not race in tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix after being knocked unconscious during a major accident in qualifying.
Medical teams rushed to the scene, and within minutes, Massa was extracted and airlifted to a hospital. The damage was serious. He suffered a fractured skull, a concussion, and severe swelling around his left eye, and asked if he remembers anything.
Well, I don't remember anything, to be honest. For me, it was very strange because it's difficult to explain what's happened. I know everything. Do you remember Rubens? I said no, I don't remember my Q2.
Even though Massa didn't end up driving for the rest of the season, but came back the year after, he never really returned to the same dominant form he had before that accident. This wouldn't be the last time debris has forced drivers to crash.
Okay, the Massa one is one of the scarier ones on a completely different level because it's not even really a crash. It's a piece of debris just landing directly on his helmet at 260 kilometers an hour. And hearing him afterwards say he genuinely doesn't remember any of it, that's honestly unsettling. In a way, the visual crashes almost aren't. That one's less about the impact and more about how random and unpreventable it was.
In Brazil in 2003, they were about to witness the most chaotic race in recent
So Martin, this race is over. Where do I start to tell you about the events leading up to this year's Brazilian Grand Prix?
Heading into the race, everyone knew the weather was bad. Interlagos had been battered by heavy rain all weekend, to the point where people were calling for it to be cancelled.
Was a dry line coming out?
For me, it was no dry line. Slipping and sliding all over the place.
The race is too unsafe to start, and we have been told that the start will be delayed.
The FIA had a chance to prevent the incoming disaster, but it was too late. As soon as the safety car came in on lap 8, the chaos slowly started to unfold, as one by one, the entire grid started to crash out.
A spinner here, one of the Minardis. It's Wilson, I beg your pardon. Spinner shunt for Olivier Panis in the Toyota.
Has he been hit from behind? Oh, that's Ralph Furman about to come in and whack the back of him. How did that happen? And I think it's a front suspension failure. But what's happened is his front, maybe he's tagged a car earlier in the race, but the front just giving away, breaking like an egg.
This was only the beginning. The biggest problem, a huge river of water had formed across the track at turn 3. This wasn't just a wet corner, it was effectively a trap.
Oh, big accident.
Montoya and Pitsonia. Here's what happened, Martin.
Yes, and got away from Pitsonia, aquaplaned, and I've got a feeling that Montoya's just going to have his own accident. No, he's already gone off. They both aquaplaned on the same. That's what I was just talking about in turn 3. And there's just new water coming from somewhere, Jane.
Must be coming out of some drainage hole or something somewhere.
We were only on lap 22 and 7 people had already crashed out. But with the weather not getting any better and tyres not sticking to the new asphalt that was laid down, the worst is yet to come.
I think they're about to get a bit more.
Schumacher's on.
Michael Schumacher has crashed.
They need to get out of there ASAP because others can well go in there. Look, and Michael, that's what I was telling you about. Safety car is out again.
Been a chaotic race, no question about it. Oh, that's Webber. He spun it. Same place as everyone else. Can he rescue? Yes, he can. He's slowing Rubens Barrichello. I don't believe it. He's retired here.
This Brazil 2003 stretch is just chaos from every angle. It's not even one crash. It's like 7 different crashes happening across a handful of laps because of this river of water at turn 3. Montoya, then Schumacher, then it just keeps going, and you can hear the commentators getting more and more stressed with every single one. This is the kind of race where you wonder why they didn't just stop it sooner.
The hometown hero who was leading the race, Barrichello, was out. The current world champion Michael Schumacher was out. You'd think the FIA would cancel this race, but even after all this, the worst crashes were just about to start.
That in the pit straight, it is in the pit straight, and it will be an enormous accident then, because that's something like 150 miles an hour. The back end of the Jaguar's got away from him. Safety car out, of course.
There's nothing Mark Webber could do. Hydroplaning straight into the tyre wall. The issue now is because the crash was severe, it left debris scattered all over the track. And if you're an oncoming driver, coming into the lake that was turn 3, there would be nothing you could do.
We've got another car
Alonso,
on.
race stopped.
Red flag, race has stopped.
Not knowing the dangers that lay in front of him, Alonso fires full speed into the tyre of Mark Webber, his Renault bouncing violently before coming to a stop.
Debris all over the track. As far as the Jordan team are concerned, this race is over.
Alonso didn't look good at the time, but miraculously he escaped with no major injuries. While all this was going on, the race leader, Fisichelle's car, wanted one last hurrah.
The car's on fire. The race-winning car in Parc Fermé has caught fire. If ever you wanted a bizarre day, this is surely it.
Well, he was the race leader. The FIA gave first place to Kimi Räikkönen, but after a further check, they reverted back to gifting Fisichella the win as he had overtaken Räikkönen shortly before the red flag. The next week at Imola, Räikkönen gave his trophy back over to Fisichella.
And then somehow it gets worse from there. Webber hydroplaning straight into the tire wall, and then Alonso comes through at full speed and hits the same wreckage because there was no way for him to know it was there. And on top of all of that, you've got the race-winning car catching fire on the podium lap. Like, the chaos genuinely does not stop in this one race.
But from the rain to the incoming fireball that nearly took one of the best to ever race at the 1989 San Marino Grand Prix. Ferrari's poster boy, Gerhard Berger, was losing it. He needed to salvage something for Ferrari as McLaren had both Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost at the same time in the same car.
The San Marino Grand Prix is go. Ready, the two Ferraris are jostling with Patrese.
Berger made a hell of a start, but just as fast as it started, it ended.
Oops, and big problems. That was something broken on the car for sure. Big crash by Berger. Without any doubt, it went straight on.
And, oh heavens above, this is dreadful.
Twitching violently under braking, the car speared to the right, mounting the curb before slamming head-on into the barriers at over 280 kilometers an hour, exploding into a fireball, putting Gerhard into the longest 10 seconds before the quick-thinking marshals extinguished the flames. The grid stood still. How do you even survive that? Never mind surviving it. Berger had been stretchered off the track, and before the race even restarted, the commentators announced to the world,
the good news was that Gerhard Berger was not as badly hurt as we had first feared. Burns to face, arm and back, but no broken bones.
A crash like this is always the trigger for further safety procedures, just like how the Halo got introduced to save drivers' necks from terrifying crashes like this.
The Berger crash is honestly hard to watch even now. Head on into the barriers at over 280, and the car just explodes into a fireball. 10 seconds trapped in that before marshals get the fire out. That's an eternity in a moment like that. And this is actually one of the crashes that led directly to the Halo being introduced years later. So there's a real through line from this exact moment to drivers walking away from hits today.
Valencia in 2010 was Mark Webber's for the taking. He'd already secured 2 race wins that season and was in the hunt for the title. Heikki Kovalainen, however, had different plans. The Lotus driver wasn't looking for points. Lotus didn't have a car good enough for that.
You need to get past Kovalainen as soon as you can, Mark, before the others start pitting.
By lap 9, Webber found himself behind Kovalainen. Red Bull's car was infinitely faster than the Lotus, so expecting Kovalainen to move out of the way, Webber went for it. Kovalainen panicked, braking way too early for Webber to react.
Lost the rear end of the car, I think. Game over.
When Christian Horner was asked about how much Webber was to blame,
do you hold Mark totally blameless?
I think Mark is blameless for that. I mean, he could have gone to the one side, but he wasn't able to judge how early Kovalainen was going to brake, and it's like they're in a different formula today.
Webber just unclipped his seatbelt and hopped out like it was nothing. Even talking about it, he was chill. Sorry about the quality. It was the best I could find.
Hey, how are you feeling? A little bit tender here and there, just having a shower, just going, well, mate, you know, lucky you'd be having a shower and you're in one piece.
With only minor bruising after a crash for the ages, sometimes people just get lucky. Webber the madman ended up getting 3rd overall in that season.
Webber's flip at Valencia is one of those crashes that looks way worse than it ends up being. The car's literally airborne and tumbling, and then he just unclips his belt and hops out like it was a fender bender. And hearing that he still finished 3rd in the championship that season after a crash like that is honestly impressive.
But speaking of lucky, we have to talk about this freak. No, not the person, the accident.
Oh, and fuel! That's the first time we've had a fuel splash. Oh my goodness me!
This one is a little different from the rest. The 1994 German Grand Prix at Hockenheim was supposed to be another dominant race for Benetton. But back when Max Verstappen's dad, Jos, was in F1, he was about to flip the sport on its head.
Berger looks as though he's hanging fire a bit. And there's straight into the wall. The race will be stopped. Oh, look at that. The car's all over the place.
Ukyo Katayama launched into the air after being clipped by another car, starting the chain reaction at the back half of the grid. But at the front, look to the left, that's Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren, drifting into and clipping the side of David Coulthard's Williams. But as Häkkinen tried to recover, he tangled with Jos Verstappen's Benetton and spun into the middle of the track. Chaos followed.
And the German Grand Prix has got off to a very bad start indeed.
But remember, this crash wasn't even in this list, because on lap 15, Verstappen had to come into the pits.
Into the pits he comes. Very difficult as a driver, you know, to judge. We had a quick glimpse of it from Verstappen. Oh, and fuel! That's the first time we've had a fuel splash. Oh, my goodness me! Well, now, just let's keep calm.
An absolute nightmare. To no fault of Verstappen and with nothing he can do, fuel sprayed over the car and the crew, igniting instantly. Flames engulfing Verstappen as he sat helpless in the cockpit. 10 agonizing seconds inside the flames, just like
Gerhard Berger had his car burst into flames in Imola and he was sitting in the car unconscious.
Verstappen himself saying, then everything went up and it was suddenly dark and black and I couldn't breathe. It was a situation you don't normally think about. It's like you're suddenly put in a dark room and then you think, I need to get out. Look at the car. How does that even happen? Later investigations revealed that Benetton had removed a safety filter from the refueling system, which allowed fuel to flow faster, but also increased the risk of spillage.
Everybody reacted very quickly. You can see the burns, superficial burns too. Jos Verstappen.
As you can imagine, the FIA was having none of it, finding Benetton responsible for violating regulations. No major penalties were given, but the burns on Verstappen and several of the Benetton pit crew will be a constant reminder of just how close they came to it being their very last day.
Okay, this one with Max Verstappen's dad is genuinely one of the scarier ones, not because of impact, but because of what happens after. Fuel spraying and igniting right in the cockpit while he's still strapped in. Him describing it afterward, saying it went dark and he couldn't breathe. That's such a specific kind of horror that's different from every other crash we've seen so far. And it's wild knowing that's literally Max's dad.
As it should have been for Sebastian Buemi. The 2010 Chinese Grand Prix weekend was etched into Formula One history, but not for the race itself. During the first practice session, Toro Rosso's Sebastian Buemi approached the turn 14 hairpin at over 200 miles per hour. This was all very standard, but as he applied the brakes, it happened. The tyres just exploded? Thankfully, you can tell that Buemi made it out uninjured. But how does something like this happen in the first place? We'll tell you in a second, because for Buemi, his wild weekend wasn't over just yet.
Big connection then at the back of the field.
Going down the back straight in practice.
Okay, so Liuzzi drops it under braking, and the rear end, right over the top.
Liuzzi, Kobayashi, and Buemi. Oh, what a weekend he's had.
An investigation by Toro Rosso revealed the wheel tethers, designed to prevent wheels from flying off, had not functioned as intended.
This Buemi practice session is just an absolute nightmare weekend for the guy. First, his tire just explodes out of nowhere at 200 miles an hour. And then later the same weekend, a wheel tether fails and he gets hit again. That's genuinely just bad luck, stacking on bad luck within a few days.
Well, obviously. Nearly as obvious as telling you that putting no crash barriers beside a hill where cars pull up to 280 kilometers per hour is a bad idea. Andrea De Cesaris was the crash king. This man kept crashing.
And that is De Cesaris, it's happened again.
But at the 1985 Austrian Grand Prix, he had his magnum opus. Driving for Liga, this team was already growing frustrated with him, with team boss Guy Liga was running out of patience. De Cesaris needed to just not crash. But that's not how he rolls, literally.
Oh, De Cesaris sideways, De Cesaris on the grass! He's going over! Oh, De Cesaris, a major accident!
Bolting down the ultra-fast Bosch curve, a flat-out right-hander, all it took was his back right wheel to clip the grass to send him into an absolute nightmare of a crash. The car was completely destroyed. Pieces of the Ligia were scattered across the track, with debris flying everywhere. But for De Cesaris...
And I think he's all right. He's getting out. He's walking up the bank, and miraculously, he looks completely unhurt.
And he's exactly right.
Cheers and applause for him. He's walking back to the pits.
But it's about to get worse for Andrea. From the second De Cesaris entered the pits after this crash, he was fired on the spot.
I need a small breather after that, so thank God for Andrea De Cesaris, because apparently this guy crashed so much, they nicknamed him the Crash King, and he somehow walks away from this one at Bosch curve completely unhurt and just strolls back to the pits, only to get fired on the spot the second he gets there. That's such a specific kind of bad day.
But if we're talking shunts, we have to talk about that Zhou Guanyu crash.
And seeing him being trapped in that car, that's kind of like a driver's worst fear.
Silverstone, England, a massive race on the calendar, and Zhou Guanyu on his debut season was showing massive promise. From starting P9, this was his time to secure crucial points for Alfa Romeo.
It's lights out and away we go.
The race had barely started when... George Russell started slow out of the gate, but as he moved left to defend, Pierre Gasly found himself wedged between Russell and Zhou. Contact was inevitable.
I was rolled upside down. I kind of just closed the eyes, just waiting to stop.
Zhou's car flipped immediately before scraping along the tarmac by the car's halo before catching the gravel trap at an angle which fired him straight over the tyre wall. His car now wedged between the walls, Zhou still inside.
George Russell running over to see if he can help.
I just see this car just barrel rolling towards the barriers, well over 100 miles an hour. Ordinarily, you're so focused on yourself, you've just lost this race. But I was thinking, that's a huge crash.
Immediately red flagged, marshals and medical crews rushed to the scene. But with the car trapped, getting Zhou out could be disastrous if he had broken his neck. Zhou was conscious and shipped off to the hospital, where by a miracle he was perfectly fine, bar being shaken up.
Luckily, I was walking off after, I think, one of the biggest incidents in Formula 1.
Zhou's right. This is one of the biggest crashes in Formula 1. But we have crashes even bigger than that.
We've talked about the Zhou crash before too, and it's still one of the scarier ones just because of how it ends. Upside down, wedged between the tire wall and the barrier, completely trapped, hearing him say he just closed his eyes and waited for it to stop is honestly such a raw way to describe it. And the fact that he walked away from that is genuinely one of the clearest Halo success stories out there.
Starting with a crash so terrifying, it almost looks fake. The Canadian Grand Prix is always dangerous, and in 2007, it was no exception. After a rough start to the season for Robert Kubica, he placed 6th, 4th and 5th in the last 3 races. So coming into Canada, it was only upwards from there. On lap 23, the safety car was already out.
Double yellow wave, so that's somebody off quite big time, I'd imagine. Oh, and that's why we've got Sutil having hit the wall hard at 4.
On one of the rare Canadian Grand Prix without rain, Adrian Sutil still managed to slide off into a wall, slowing the rest of the grid behind a safety car. 3 laps under the safety car, cooling down the tyres as they begin to lose grip, but by lap 26, they were off again.
And the race is back on.
But off camera,
Oh, he's got off and Kubica hits the wall.
as soon as he'd lost control, the trajectory of his car became terrifyingly clear, skipping across the grass at an estimated 300 kilometers per hour before slamming nose first into the concrete barrier at a staggering 75 Gs. The car had no chance.
Temperatures drop. Look at all the debris. That's Kubica's accident as seen by Tonio Liuzzi. Debris everywhere, flying wheels.
Within seconds, the FIA medical team was there. Remarkably, Kubica was conscious and moving, only suffered a sprained ankle and a mild concussion. Given how insane this crash was, Kubica tried to pull a Derek Warwick from earlier and get himself maybe not back the same race, but the following week in Indianapolis. But the FIA wasn't having any of it. Replacing him to make his debut was none other than this man.
19-year-old debutant Sebastian Vettel is 7th.
The soon-to-be 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. At that USA Grand Prix, an interviewer thought of the best possible question for Kubica.
Have you seen the accident on TV?
Well, yeah, I have seen it also live when I was there,
But if
the video wasn't lying, this Kubica one is genuinely one of the scariest crashes I've ever seen. 300 kilometers an hour, skidding across the grass before slamming nose first into a concrete wall at 75 Gs. The fact that he walked away with basically a sprained ankle and a mild concussion after that still doesn't feel real to me. And him trying to get back in the car the following week after everything we just saw from Derek Warwick earlier, I guess that instinct just runs in this sport.
this is one of the most intense crashes in not just F1 history, but motorsport as a whole, who beats that?
This is the worst start for a Grand Prix that I have ever seen in the whole of my life.
1998 Belgian Grand Prix, known as one of the most disastrous races in F1 history and a tale that just keeps getting worse. Rain had been falling steadily before the race. A wet race at Spa? Never! Which already made a dangerous race even worse. The tension on the grid was clear.
Yes! Yes, it's go!
But no one could have predicted the sheer scale of the chaos about to unfold mere seconds after the race start.
Great start by Eddie Irvine. David Coulthard into the wall will stop the race.
They'll have to red flag this.
Terrible. Look, this is quite appalling. This is the worst start for a Grand Prix that I have ever seen in the whole of my life.
13 cars piled up and smashed to bits, obviously red flagged due to 60% of the grid being in a metallic heap. Hush fell on the track. What the hell had just happened?
Now watch it now, look, David Coulthard swings across and just lights up the rear wheels, had a big frontal impact into the wall.
Car after car, knowing where their fate lied, smashing one by one into their friends.
And then after that, total carnage, nothing they can do.
Remarkably, no drivers sustained serious injuries. Yes, there was a few drivers like Barrichello and Olivier Panis who reported minor bruises and soreness, but that was all medically. If this would have happened even 10 years prior, the safety tech that saved all these drivers wasn't around. But crashes like this show why it's so important to keep this sport we love safe. Speaking of this sport, here are some videos on your screen to keep this rabbit hole you've ended up going on. The grid out.
And then to close it all out, this Spa 1998 pileup might be the most chaotic thing in the entire video. 13 cars just piling into each other within seconds of the race starting. The commentator flat out saying it's the worst start he's ever seen live on air really tells you everything. And the genuinely incredible part is that with all that carnage, 60% of the grid involved, nobody was seriously hurt. That's just how far the safety side of the sport had already come by that point. Okay, the video really did keep its promise. That got scarier and scarier the whole way through, and ending on that spa pileup was such a wild way to close it out. Watching all of these back-to-back really puts into perspective just how much this sport has had to learn the hard way to get safer. If you want to watch the full video, I'll drop the original creators' link and channel down in the description. Go show them some love. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care!